How flood insurance is calculated in Florida. For many homebuyers relocating to Florida, flood insurance is one of the least understood aspects of homeownership. While buyers often focus on mortgage payments, property taxes, and homeowners insurance, flood insurance can significantly affect the total cost of owning a property, particularly in coastal communities. In regions like Pinellas County, where waterfront living and proximity to the Gulf of Mexico attract buyers from across the country, understanding flood insurance has become increasingly important. Rising weather-related risks, evolving federal rating systems, and changing insurance costs have made flood insurance a key factor in real estate decisions. The question many buyers ask is straightforward. How is flood insurance actually calculated? The answer involves a combination of location, elevation, property characteristics, and risk assessment. Why flood insurance matters in Florida. Standard homeowners insurance policies typically do not cover flood damage. Because Florida is vulnerable to hurricanes, heavy rainfall, storm surge, and tidal flooding, separate flood insurance is often necessary to protect a property from water-related losses. For some homeowners, flood insurance is required by mortgage lenders. For others, it may be optional but strongly recommended. Even homes located outside high-risk flood zones can experience flooding during severe weather events. The shift to risk-based pricing. Historically, flood insurance premiums were largely based on flood zone classifications. Today, the pricing system has become more individualized. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, introduced a risk-based rating approach that considers multiple factors when determining premiums. Instead of relying primarily on flood maps, the system evaluates the unique characteristics of each property. As a result, two homes located in the same neighborhood may have significantly different flood insurance costs. Location remains a major factor. The property's geographic location remains one of the most important components in determining flood insurance premiums. Factors include distance from the coastline, proximity to rivers, bays, or canals, exposure to storm surge, historical flood patterns, local topography. In Pinellas County, homes located along waterfront areas generally face higher flood exposure than properties situated farther inland. However, location alone no longer determines the entire premium. Elevation can significantly impact costs. Elevation is one of the strongest influences on flood insurance pricing. Generally speaking, homes built higher above expected flood levels often qualify for lower premiums because they face reduced flood risk. An elevation certificate may help document a property's height relative to local flood standards. For buyers evaluating coastal homes, elevation can be just as important as the flood zone designation itself. Two nearby properties can have dramatically different insurance costs based on elevation differences alone. The structure of the home matters. Flood insurance calculations also consider characteristics of the structure itself. Insurers may evaluate foundation type, number of floors, construction materials, presence of enclosed lower levels, building replacement cost. A home elevated on pilings may present different risk levels than a slab-on-grade structure located nearby. The overall design of the home can influence how vulnerable it is to flood damage and therefore affect premium costs. Replacement cost influences premiums. The cost to rebuild the home plays a role in determining coverage needs and insurance pricing. Higher value homes generally require more coverage, which can increase premiums. However, flood insurance focuses on rebuilding costs rather than market value. A home's selling price may include land value, location premiums, or amenities that are not directly tied to reconstruction expenses. Understanding this distinction can help buyers better estimate future insurance obligations. Flood zone classifications still matter. Although flood zones are no longer the sole pricing factor, they continue to play an important role. Common flood zones include high-risk flood zones, moderate-risk flood zones, low-risk flood zones. Properties located within higher risk zones are more likely to require flood insurance as a condition of financing. Buyers should review flood maps carefully during the home search process, particularly in coastal areas of Pinellas County. Weather trends and long-term risk. Flood insurance providers increasingly consider broader environmental and weather-related risks. Changing storm patterns, rising sea levels, and historical loss data all contribute to how risk is assessed. This trend reflects a broader shift within the insurance industry toward evaluating future exposure rather than relying solely on historical flood maps. For Florida homeowners, this means insurance costs may continue to evolve as risk models become more sophisticated. What buyers should do before making an offer. Flood insurance should be investigated before finalizing a purchase. Buyers can benefit from requesting current flood insurance costs from the seller, reviewing flood zone designations, asking about prior flood claims, obtaining insurance quotes early in the process, reviewing elevation information when available, waiting until the final stages of a transaction can lead to unexpected affordability concerns. In some cases, insurance costs can materially affect a buyer's monthly housing budget. Local perspective: Pinellas County. Pinellas County offers some of Florida's most desirable coastal real estate, but it also illustrates why flood insurance has become a central part of the buying process. Waterfront homes, coastal communities, and low-lying neighborhoods can all experience varying levels of flood exposure. As insurance carriers and federal programs continue refining risk assessments, buyers are increasingly factoring flood insurance into overall purchasing decisions. Properties that combine favorable elevation, strong mitigation features, and manageable insurance costs often attract stronger buyer interest. The bottom line: flood insurance in Florida is no longer calculated using a simple flood zone formula. Today, premiums are influenced by a combination of location, elevation, construction characteristics, rebuilding costs, and individualized risk assessments. For buyers, understanding these factors is essential when evaluating affordability and long-term ownership costs. In markets like Pinellas County, where coastal living remains highly desirable, flood insurance has become a critical component of the home buying process. The more informed buyers are about how premiums are determined, the better prepared they will be to make confident real estate decisions.